Good morning. Would like to welcome everyone this morning to the meeting of the Eastmark Community Facilities District Number 1 Board. First item on the agenda is items from citizens present. Do we have any requests to speak?
No requests, Mayor.
Okay. Now we'll have a presentation.
Good morning, Chairman and board members. We're having a study session for the Eastmark Community Facilities District Number 1 this morning. We have some actions that are coming up on the 25th and the 5th of March. We wanted to give you some background. We have some financing. We've gone through all the legal formation of the district. You're sat as the board of the district, and we have a general plan for the developer, which is DMB, the master developer here, and we have D. McDonald and Roman Gorecki here this morning to answer any questions from them. Scott, as district council, will go through and kind of go through the legal aspects of what we're asking you to do on the 25th and the 5th.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you. Scott Ruby with Gus Rosenfeld. Again, like Chuck said, I'll just try to briefly tell you what you're going to do or what to consider on the 25th. There's two resolutions for consideration. The first resolution is a resolution of intent. That's what we call it on the shorthand way. That resolution actually does about three things. Number one, it'll establish the boundaries of an assessment district. An assessment district will be a sub-district to the overall Community Facilities District. It represents the properties that are benefited by a particular improvement. In this case, the assessment district is going to finance two particular roads that benefit about 4 or 5 subdivisions. So it will establish the boundaries to include those 4 or 5 benefited subdivisions. And it will also establish, the second thing, an estimate of the cost. In this case, we have a kind of a target number. The master developer does not want to assess any residential lot more than $3,500. And so what we've done is kind of back in or plugged a fill number so that the assessment will be $3,500. We actually have construction costs and issuance costs of the bonds, which, if allocated evenly over the number of lots, would have resulted in a little higher assessment than $3,500. So the developer is actually contributing to this particular financing an amount of cash, which will bring that assessment down so that each lot, 775 lots in the assessment district, will bear a $3,500 assessment. The other thing the resolution does, the final thing, is you will have presented to you prior to the consideration of the adoption of the resolution of intention a feasibility report. That feasibility report reflects kind of the project, what they intend to finance, when they finance, and a plan of finance. In this case, the method of financing is the issuance of assessment bonds. Assessment bonds are different than general obligation bonds. Assessment bonds are secured by a finite dollar amount lien that is placed on every benefited parcel. In this case, again, we have determined that the benefited parcels are the 775 lots within the boundaries of the assessment district. Those plan of finance, those bonds will go out for 25 years. They'll be marketed. It's a fairly high or pretty secure deal in the sense that assessment bonds are secured by the value of the land. In the event of failure to pay the assessment, the land is sold similar to a foreclosure sale, and the amount that is allowed to be bid at that sale is just the amount of the assessment. So what we do is we try to make sure that the assessment amount on the parcel is far less than the fair market value of the property, so it somewhat guarantees us, or hopefully provides some assurance, that if there was ever a foreclosure, we know that the value of the lot would spur some interest in the sale. For example, the Mesa CFD guidelines say that if we're going to have bonds which are offered publicly, we want to make sure that the value of the lot is at least 6 times greater than the assessment. In this case, we're having an appraisal performed, and the tentative numbers from the appraisal show that the value of these lots will be
over 14 to 1.
14 times greater than the $3,500 assessment. So we're fairly comfortable that in the event there was ever an issue on any lot, there's going to be sufficient value there to attract bidders to bid the $3,500 amount. So that wraps up the resolution of intention. Again, it establishes the district, it establishes the dollar amount and the, in this case, $3,500 assessment amount, and it will approve the feasibility report, which will be presented to you just prior to that resolution. The second resolution required by statute is a resolution ordering the work. In this case, because this district is not going to sell bonds, collect money, and then pay the contractor in monthly installments as the improvements are built. This is an acquisition district. We try to take the construction risk out of that, out of this type of financing. And so what we intend to do here is issue the bonds, receive the cash, and then we will reimburse the developer for completed infrastructure. The developer has gone through, with respect to that infrastructure, all the Title 34 bidding requirements so that we meet state law from that standpoint as a eligible project to be reimbursed with public funds. And this resolution simply says, go forth and acquire the completed infrastructure, the completed work that was described in the resolution of intention. That's the 25th. We'll follow up in a couple weeks with another resolution, which is really the resolution that authorizes the issuance of the bonds.
Scott, who makes the determination of completion?
The engineering department, Mr. Chairman,
Our engineer.
Yes, our engineering department will actually file a certificate of substantial completion.
Okay.
And then we know that it's eligible for bond financing. In this, the timing of the financing relative to completion is always something that we're sensitive to. We don't want to sell bonds and then hope the developer goes out and receives bids and has it built. We want to see that there's been activity down there that gives us some assurance that we haven't prematurely issued the bonds. And so, in this case, those contracts have been awarded and they're virtually complete. I think we expect completion in or around April or early May. So we know that we're not too far ahead of the actual completion of those improvements with the issuance of our bonds.
Okay. All right. Any questions? Okay.
Very good. Thank you much.
Thank you. Next item is approval of minutes of previous meetings. I have a motion from Councilmember Summers, second from Councilmember Glover. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Motion adjourned from Councilmember Glover, second from the Vice Mayor. All in favor say aye. Aye. Meeting is adjourned.